amendments that the amendment be agreed to, and I call the member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And I'd like to finish off where the previous speaker began. She talked about intransigence, and there is intransigence, and it's by the Australian Labor Party and their opposition to the government's tax reform proposals. And it's quite clear why that's the case. While they talk about the tax system, as the previous member did, being complex, it's because they don't actually understand what the point of a tax system is. More importantly, the tax system is complex. That's true. And that's part of its problem. And that is what this bill and this proposal is seeking to address. This budget, and the heart of it sitting as much of the tax relief proposals before us, is built on three pillars. The first is one of responsibility. Responsibility because what it provides for is the budget to finally be returned to surplus. The legacy, the Labor legacy of debts and deficits accruing, which has been almost intractable for a government to resolve, is now coming to an end. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And instead of waiting and delaying, as our political opponents have done, we are finally bringing not just a point of surplus together, credibly, but we're actually bringing it forward so that we can start to pay down the debt of the Commonwealth. So that is the first pillar of responsibility. The second pillar of responsibility is, of course, security. Security to make sure people who are in vulnerable stages of life get the support and assistance that they need. And that comes through our support for mental health packages and support for people who are vulnerable throughout different stages of life. Our support and increase in support for people in home aged care to make sure that they have dignity and choice as they enter the latter stages of their life. But you can only deliver that sense of security and support if you actually have, one, a strong economy, and secondly, the means to deliver it. And by delivering a responsible budget, you can also deliver a secure one as well. But critically, and most importantly, the third prong or the third pillar of this budget is one of opportunity. Opportunity for all Australians to be able to realise their ambitions and their dreams. And critical at the heart of that is the tax relief proposal put forward by this government in this budget. And building again on the principle that I started with earlier, if you don't have a responsible budget that manages the finances of the nation in a measured and considerate way, if you don't have a responsible budget that recognises, one, that government has to live within their means, but that we have a responsible budget recognises we cannot imperil generations of the future to pay for our lifestyle today, you cannot deliver a budget that also delivers opportunity. Opportunity for every Australian to be able to choose how they live their lives and to be able to make choices about how they want to secure their own future. And that's what the tax relief proposals in this budget are about. They're about removing the complexity that seems to be loved and enjoyed by those opposite, including the previous member who spoke, loving and indulging in the fact that people can find ways to minimise their taxation obligations, loving the fact that people see a huge discrepancy between different tax arrangements so that the well-off and the privileged are able to organise their affairs in their own interests and against their obligations to society. That's what complexity delivers. A worse outcome for every Australian, a worse outcome for government revenue, a worse outcome for taxpayers, except for the select and privileged few. And the core of the tax relief proposal that is being put forward to this parliament is to remove one of those prongs of complexity, particularly to change the structure of the income tax base so that those people who are in the middle class and lower middle income earners pay less towards and less contribution towards the tax system, that don't have the dead hand of government and the tax system come up and sneak them up on them and touch them on the shoulder just as they seek to achieve more in their careers, achieve more in increasing their incomes and helping to secure the position of their families. And we're doing that particularly by changing the tax rate so that it goes from their middle income tax rate of 32.5% and the threshold from $87,000 to $90,000. which reduces taxes by up to $135 a year for taxpayers earning above $87,000. And from 2022-23, the top threshold of the 32.5% bracket will be further increased from $90,000 to $120,000, making sure more and more middle-income earning Australians will never contribute more than a third of their income to income tax. And the top threshold of the 19% bracket will also be increased from $37,000 to $41,000, meaning low-income earners, those who put the effort into making sure that they can secure their income, sometimes part-time workers, many women, will have tax relief as well. And then the low and middle income tax offset will be replaced by increasing the low income tax offset from $445 to $645. And this increase in the low income tax offset and increasing the top threshold of that 19% bracket will guarantee the benefits of every part of the tax proposal that's been put forward and legislated for already. Critically and more importantly, the next stage of the tax reform proposal will be to flatten the tax system to take the entirety of the Australian middle class into one tax bracket where they will not pay more than 32.5% or more than a third of their income in income tax. So if you want to dismiss this proposal and the proposal being put forward by the government, you are turning around to every mum, every dad, every person, every professional who believes in their capacity and their ingenuity to support themselves and their families and saying you are not contributing enough to the burden of the nation and you should be paying more than a third of your income to the tax system. You are saying to all those mums and dads and professionals and small business people and those who are making a wicket and making it go so they do not have to be dependent on others, that you must make a greater contribution to the affairs of the nation and that more than a third of your income, more than 33 cents in the dollar that you earn should be going to support the people in this place, rather than going out there and making sure that you can earn your income, you can keep it, you can make your choices and your decisions about how you are going to secure the future of your family and your community. And that's why from the 24-25 income year, the top threshold of the top threshold, the 32.5% tax bracket, will be further increased from $120,000 to $200,000, completely removing the 37% tax bracket, simplifying the personal income tax system. This will mean that people will stay in the same tax bracket over their entire working life, and the top marginal rate of 45% will remain, but only after their incomes reach more than $200,000. So under this progressive tax plan, what we will see is the middle class paying the same tax rate. Lower income earners will be paying a lesser rate, and high income earners, after they earn more than $200,000, will be paying a higher rate. But critically, we will be supporting those families and those individuals to get their support and assistance. And these changes will mean that around 94% of taxpayers are projected to face a marginal tax rate of 32.5% or less in 2024-25. And this compares with the projected 63% of taxpayers in 2025 under the current policy setting, which shows you that the plan the government has put forward is one focused on people, focused on families, focused on Australians who want to put their own position and their own security at the fore, who want to make sure they enjoy the dividends and the rewards of earned work and effort so they can provide for their families. It's about understanding that the tax system, by its complexity, is undermining the future opportunity of this great nation. Because sitting at the heart of this great nation isn't the opportunity of unleashing the power of bureaucracies, as our opponents would like. It's not sitting at the heart of Canberra and its capacity to be able to overgovern and over-regulate our lives. It's where people coming together form families as the foundation for community and nationhood, and through their freedom and choice are able to support themselves and the community around them. This is a plan to support Australia being governed from the citizen up and the family up, rather than Canberra down. And the more we move towards this trajectory, the more we are going to profoundly empower the average Australians to be able to live their lives and their dreams without burdening them too heavily on the obligations they have towards the rest of the country. But critically and more importantly, what this tax plan does is start to address the deep imbalance in our tax system. The government's tax plan reduces the dependence on income tax, which critically hits so many young and working and aspirational Australians, where more than 70% of the revenue that comes into the federal government's coffers comes from income tax, and it hits critically within a short period of life, between mostly the age of 35 and 55. What you're indulging, as we have been presently, is a tax system that takes from the young and aspirational who have not had their go yet, and principally to reward those who have. If you look at who pays tax, who holds wealth and who consumes the benefits of the tax system, there is no alignment. We must make sure that we provide a legal framework and a tax environment that supports the workers of the future. So when they're going through the process of getting married, and thankfully we can now say that's every family has that opportunity, have a tax system and people are working so they're not overburdened while they're trying to save to buy their own home. Those foundational principles of people being able to live in large lives beyond themselves, that they will not be asked to carry the vast majority of the burden of the nation, and that instead we are going to recognise that they too have a right to be able to aspire and achieve their own dreams and contribute towards reform of enjoy the benefits of the tax relief that is being put forward by this country. Now, I'm not going to try and pretend that this is the end of the tax reform that I would like to see, Deputy Speaker, because I would like to see a concrete plan into the future to address the intergenerational theft that often exists at the heart of our tax system, where some people pay while other people enjoy the benefit without any recognition of the obligations of everybody who sits in this society. But that plan and that solution does not come from those who sit on the opposition benches, because those who sit on the opposition benches are only interested in fiddling at the margins. They're only interested in working around the system to try and reward their own friends and their own mates in the tax system and to target the people who do not vote for them. Their position is not one anchored on a sense of justice in society, but instead appealing to voting blocs and bases in the hope that they can make their way from over in the opposition benches into the government ones. It is a plan that is fundamentally unjust and does not respect reward for effort or understand the contribution and the effort that people have made to make themselves independent of the the welfare system. We believe strongly in making sure that people who have earned income and saved for their future are able to have a degree of security without having grabs and focuses designed to achieve populist political objectives. And that's why, well, it's pretty easy to keep repeating yourself when you guys don't listen, when the opposition benches don't actually understand the serious consequences of their policy framework, when they don't understand that the consequences of what they are putting forward will do nothing to address housing affordability. What they're moving forward will have no effect in trying to improve the opportunities for younger Australians, where all their objective is to hit some people so that they can redistribute wealth to other parts of the community to achieve their broader political objectives. They're not actually focused on the future of this country and what we need to have to continue to be a liberal democracy, to have an investment in society built on ownership and responsibility, a society that recognises that aspiration entrepreneurialism is something to be celebrated and to be recognised, and that those who have worked hard and secured a reward for their effort should have a recognition and respect for that effort. And that's what we need to achieve in this country. And that's not what is being put forward by our opponents, and that is precisely what is being achieved in the proposal, the Treasury Law Amendments, Personal Income Tax Plan, or the government's tax relief proposal before us today. It is the beginning of a journey, and a journey to build a better, stronger, liberal democracy for our great nation. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.